There once was a girl who lived deep in the magical woods, in the beautiful woods. The girl's name was Greta. Greta loved living in the woods, living amongst the trees, living with the animals and the birds and the bees. It was such a beautiful place to be. One morning, when Greta woke up, she left her house and walked up her garden, but things didn't feel quite the same as usual. Once she got to the end of her garden, she saw out into the forest, and in the shadows behind the trees, all of the animals were all snuggled up together, looking really sad. In the shadows.
What,
Greta?
Like a rabbit right next to a fox?
Yeah, Greta went to see what was wrong. And from the shadows came a big wolf, a big grey wolf. He walked out of the shadows with his head down and his tail beneath his legs. He looked really, really sad. And the wolf said to Greta, "Can you help us, please? The forest is broken. The giants have destroyed it. We don't know where to go." The giants had always lived in the forest. For as long as anyone could remember, the giants had been there. They're big, lumbering oafs. They're always stomping around. They'd always been there, but things were getting worse now. You see, giants, they chop down trees to make their homes. And in the cities, they need big houses and factories. So they need to chop down more trees. They need bigger roads and shops. Until in the end, there was hardly any forest left. They didn't even notice the animals trembling in the shadows. Greta wanted to help. She saw their sad faces, and of course she wanted to help them. But what could she do? She went to bed that night, and the next morning she came up with a really good idea she thought might work. She went to the middle of the forest. She went to a big clearing where she knew that the giants passed by. And she held aloft a single sign that said, "Stop." She stood there all day long holding her sign up. The giants didn't notice her. She was way too small. They walked past and never even saw her. She went back the next day and held her sign up. The third day, nobody noticed. On the fourth day, something different happened. Another boy came along and joined her. He stood there with Greta and they held their signs up. And as the days come by, all of the animals of the forest and the children all came with their signs. Till in the end, there were so many that the giants had to notice. They were stopped in their tracks. The giants stood looking down at all of the animals and the children, and Greta shouted at the top of her voice so the giants could hear, "Stop! You're spoiling our home! You've damaged the trees! The forest is dying!" Everyone started to join in. They made so much noise, Greta shouted up, "Our home, our forest is dying. Please, you must try harder." The biggest giant of them all came down low to Greta and he said, "We're sorry. We didn't realise. I promise we will try harder." And try harder they did. The giants tried much harder. They learned to not be so noisy. They learned to be quiet and listen. They learned to stop working so much. And they began to get hobbies and create things and make things. They started to cook for each other. They started to share. They started to tidy and reuse. They started to care. And before long, the forest was more beautiful than they ever could have imagined.